Good evening. Just want to let you know if I'm looking down a lot, it's because I'm looking at my notes. So, in Ohio, the weather here can be like super sketchy and unpredictable. So, this is my first winter doing minivan camper van life, and it's kind of been like all based on trial and error. So, I've been like trying to do different things on keeping warm, but like each works out more successful than the last in some ways, and some ways not. So I use the Mr. Heater Buddy. Yeah, that's the right way to say that. So it's pretty much like not the, I don't want to say not the safest, but not the easiest to do that in like cars and minivans. So my whole process with that has been like as safe as possible. So this is my Mr. Heater Buddy, and it sits on top of the little seat box that I put in the space where my passenger seat used to be. And pretty much all I do is I have this window down, like cracked at the top. So if I just pull down my window cover, I can see that I can like put my hand through the window. So yeah, I have rain guards on the outside. I have this window mesh bug screen, so that way I always have oxygen coming into the vehicle, so I don't like, kill myself sleeping with this running. I keep that open like that, and then I also usually keep my AC vent open. So I think it's open right now. Yep, it's open all the way. That also lets air in. Other than the Mr. Heater Buddy, I've also tried using one of those, I want to say 20-degree sleeping bags and 35-degree sleeping bags. Honestly, for me, I don't really like sleeping with a sleeping bag. It just feels constricting. I move around a lot when I'm asleep. But yeah, so I've tried those. I've tried using an electric blanket when I sleep, and the electric blanket I have, it's a Sunbeam, and I feel like it just doesn't heat up as well as it, like I got it like when I first started doing this, which was back in March, I want to say. And so other than the Mr. Heater Buddy, I think I'm just going to say Mr. Buddy Heater, because I feel like the order of the words makes more sense that way. So other than using the Mr. Buddy Heater, I've also tried using sleeping bags like the 0-degree, 20-degree sleeping bags in here. And honestly, it's not the most comfortable for me because I'm like a really tall, not really tall, I'm 6'1". So I'm a tall person-ish, depending on your standards. And I move around a lot in my sleep, so that's like super uncomfortable for me. And I like my feet to be free. So that was just like a deal breaker right there. I've tried that, and I've also tried using electric blankets. So my track history with electric blankets isn't the best, because I feel like if you leave them running all the time, they start to like wear out. And then like, if you wash them incorrectly, you're also like wearing out the wiring. I don't know. But whenever I do use them, they don't last too long. So ultimately, I decided to use the Mr. Buddy Heater. The pros of using this heater are honestly that it gets really hot really fast. And that's pretty much it. I mean, for me, with the way my setup is in here, this heater definitely heats up the van like within like 5 to 10 minutes. But considering I have like all these windows, and so like the heat stops at about right here. And so when I'm laying in bed, I can't feel like, if I'm not sitting up, I can't feel the heat. but overall it's still warming the van to an extent where like it's a lot warmer in here altogether than it is outside. While researching on YouTube, I did find one solution to this problem. It's to use a stovetop fan heater, no, heater fan, and I'll include the link to that video in the description. Their channel's name is Playing with Sticks. So how it works is it has a like a clip, I guess, that you just slide it. Don't do that. Okay, you just slide it onto the heater and heat activates it and causes the fan to spin, blowing the hot air onto you instead of the heat just rising up to the top, and you're not really getting any benefits from it. It works, you know, obviously it does what it's supposed to, but when you have a 1 pound canister of propane that lasts maybe 3 to 4 hours on low, this is like the lower end model, not the one with the double burners. So on low, it maybe takes 3 to 4 hours for the 1 pound propane tank to empty. And when it is emptied, the fan kind of continues blowing because it's still got that heat built up. And it's just beginning to blow cold air onto you, and then eventually wakes you up. Now, of course, you can just get a full-size propane tank, and obviously that's not an option for everyone, but all you need to do that is a hose and a filter. You just connect that to a larger propane tank, and of course you don't have to worry about the propane not lasting throughout the night, and it'll keep you warm all night. So that's an option. And of course you want to make sure to have a carbon monoxide detector and a smoke alarm, especially with such an enclosed space, because last thing you want to do is be waking up gasping for air because all the oxygen has been sucked out of the space. Now I guess I'll give a little demonstration of how this fan system works. I'm sure you've all seen a Mr. Buddy heater before in some application. So here we go. Alright, so all you do, make sure this is on here correctly. One thing I will say I don't like about this, and there are different things you can do about that, but this is bending out so much. It does have a tendency to fall off in the middle of the night, or just when I get the heater started. And of course it's burning hot, so you can't really touch it. But all right, so to start it, you just click it down into pilot until it lights like that. Wait a second, then pull over to low. And then after maybe 30 seconds to a minute, the bottom of the fan will heat up and then it'll start to run. And there you go. Now the fan will run and it'll push the hot air onto you, more or less, instead of the heat just rising completely and being lost in the headspace. And then to turn it off, or I guess with these 1 pound ones, you know, just wait for it to run out. But if for whatever reason you're just not comfortable sleeping with it on and you just want to heat up your space and you have a good insulation system, just hold it down, turn it to pilot, and then off. And then, as you can see, the fan is continuing to spin and spin and spin, blowing cold air onto me now. And I can't touch it because it's like, you know, melt your fingers hot. I did make the mistake of grabbing it once, not thinking about it, and I burnt the top of my thumb. So you live and you learn. So for the most part, the fan doesn't really 100% solve that heat leaking out of the windows problem. So I recently watched another video, which again I will link in the description, because I definitely don't remember what the channel was, but he just cut up foam pieces of insulation and stuck them in the windows in addition to the window covers. So that is what I will attempt to do, and hopefully it works and helps, because if not, then it's kind of just like a waste to have the heater going, because pretty much when it's cold enough, it does not help at all if all that heat is leaking out, because you're really just laying there at a barely comfortable temperature. I will say that I would much rather have a diesel heater if I could, but as far as cutting into the roof to put that air vent there, right there, I'm not comfortable at all cutting into the bottom of the van. I don't know what I'm looking at, and I don't know it's safe to cut through and what not to cut through. So honestly, if I try to do that, I'm like worried I'd do something beyond repair, and that's just not worth it. So I'm gonna keep doing what I can to make the Mr. Buddy heater work for me. I forgot to mention, this video is in no way sponsored by Mr. Heater, so this is all just my honest opinion, and you know, there's all types of different tips and tricks when it comes to these things, and a ton of people will tell you that they don't like them for such and such reasons, same as I have, but for different reasons, and then they'll tell you why they think you should get it for such and such reasons. I recommend it depending on your living space. Obviously, if you're in a small vehicle like a car, a sedan, I wouldn't do it. But if you're in a minivan and you have the safety of proximity like I do, then go for it, because I made sure that there was nothing that could catch fire that would be directly in front of this thing. Like, this wasn't my original intention when building this way, but it just worked out that way, thankfully. So to sum it up, I do recommend you get one. Just be careful, of course. This could very much kill you if you do it wrong, so keep that in mind. That is it for this video. See you in the next one.